Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Suzi Barrett, and this is a very special episode. Why? Because it's the first live episode of Yes Also ever recorded. We recorded this at Hear.say Brewing and Theater in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and my guest is the fabulous Tony DeRosa, who is the owner and proprietor of the theater and a fantastic improviser. I had the pleasure of working with his community for the week that I was out there and seeing them do shows and great work and workshops. It's really a special community with a lot of talent, a lot of heart, and this amazing space that Tony has created. There is no part 2 of this episode. We're bringing it all to you completely for free as a bonus, and it's great. You'll hear Tony give tips and tricks for buying and running spaces, including things that I didn't know about small business loans and peer-to-peer lending. There's also some great scene work nuggets in here, and we close with a Q&A from the people who were there. Great questions all around. Thank you to everyone who asked a question, and thank you also to everyone who came out and supported the show live. What a blast. In fact, let's go there now to Hear.say and Tony DeRosa. Tony DeRosa.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Suzi. What a pleasure and delight this is.
It's so funny for someone who owns a place to thank me for having them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very Midwestern. We're just always thanking each other,
right,
and then figuring out why and all that.
You welcome someone to your house and go, thank you for having me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for eating all of the food I prepared for you.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry I made you this food. Yeah.
It really means a lot.
If you could, a lot of people here know you already, but we've just met and the audience at home doesn't know you. Give me like in a nutshell version of your improv journey and kind of how you landed in Michigan and how you arrived here, and then we'll dive into Hear.say.
Yeah, so the nutshell version is I was working in tech for Google for like 10 years. I was about to get married to my wife, Lauren, who's in the back. It was like a few months before our wedding, and I was like, I'm going to take improv classes to de-stress.
Wait.
Yes.
I need to de-stress.
Yeah.
What I want to do is stand in front of a bunch of people and not know what I'm going to say.
Exactly, yeah.
Where the idea is try to be funny. That'll get my stress gone.
It worked perfect, yeah.
But wait, why improv?
I always, I was somebody that got really into even in like 4th grade, I remember it was like, you had to like research a career. And at that time I put comedian and wrote about Jerry Seinfeld. I remember being like, and the salary range you can earn is 0 or all of the money that's ever been printed in the world. Like the range is 0 or 100 million and it's mostly 0. I was like, I'll put that on hold for a little bit and see kind of if this maybe comes back later, but I think I was probably always somebody that does a lot of bits and
Yeah, you're a comedian at heart. You just never pursued it until right before you were about to get married.
Right before I was about to get married to de-stress. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It was an awesome. So there was a theater in Ann Arbor before this one that unfortunately did close, called Pointless, where a lot of people in this community originally trained. It was a very special and awesome place. So yes, kudos to that. And so I was training there, and then we moved to California during the middle of the COVID pandemic.
Where in California?
Where in California? Oh yeah,
on my hands. Yeah.
So that's a big San Francisco Bay. I think that's like. That's like a very deep
because I'm zooming in on the part that it's important to you.
Yeah. So we lived in Redwood City for most of that time, and out there I started teaching a lot more and performing in a short form show at Made Up Theater in Fremont, California. And that was a really awesome place. It was really when I started to like dig in and realize I love teaching. I coached a Herald team.
What do you love about teaching and coaching?
I think it's helping people be aware of choices they may not have seen or been aware of. That's probably like the most delightful part of it, I think, because we're all trying to, and I always say that if I am coaching, like it's very easy to be the one watching scenes and be like, oh, did you, but did this feel more difficult or did this feel easier? And what are strategies?
Feels also like karmically you're undoing what you've done at Google.
Yes.
Which is like
yes.
Unwittingly guiding people off a cliff where they don't know that they're making a choice or why.
Exactly.
And now you're making up for it by being like, hey, are you aware of this choice? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's been a fun journey from working for like a mega multinational corporate place, then being like, how can I do I think a lot of career pivots are sometimes reactions to what you did previously.
Right. I've gone as big as I can go. Now, how do I go as small and community focused as I can go?
Yeah. I was at one point, my last job at Google was actually with YouTube, helping to run a help center that gets 10 billion visits and people.
10 billion visits
a
day?
A year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know why I made up the second half of that. I was like,
guy.
A second?
Yeah.
It's actually what?
It's one guy who's just there a lot. He's just like constantly refreshing.
Mr. YouTube.
Mr. YouTube.
Nathan P. YouTube.
Nathan YouTube. Yeah. So I was kind of, I started running a lot of team building workshops at Google and YouTube, and I would run that, a lot of teams, because, budgets are tight at Google. So people are always looking for...
Yeah.
The funny thing is that's actually kind of true. People are like, what can we do for like $20 a person? And that would be a legitimate.
When Uber was in the red, I went and taught a workshop there, and I was like, I know how you guys can save some money. Stop having kombucha and beer on tap. And why is there a fireman's pole leading from one break room to the other?
Yeah.
Does everyone need their own beanbag chair? I was like, what the fuck?
Every office like literally has one person at Google whose job is to just do something like really stupid in the like at one in the Pittsburgh office. There'd be like a overhang, like almost like what you'd find at like a Chuck E. Cheese, like a mesh kind of a thing, and you could just be like, somebody could be like doing legitimate work underneath you, like an engineer coding, and you're just like flopping around
like on a
above them,
like on a human net, like a hamster crawl zone.
A net.
Yeah.
Which would be the funniest place to have like a performance review. You're just like dangling from 20 feet.
I mean, you're preaching to the choir, because I used to wait tables at Rainforest Cafe in Chicago.
Yes.
And it was like downtown Chicago, and people on their lunch break who are nearby are like businessmen, and they would like have contract meetings while like gorillas are like.
That's a wild place for
It's insane, but it's like if it's close by and you're from out of town, or you have a client and you want to kind of like do something novel or whatever, I guess it was like, Gary from the Cleveland office is here. We might as well go to this fun thing that Cleveland doesn't have. But the reality then, which they realize as soon as they sit down, is they're like, so we should talk about distribution.
There's an elephant.
It's just insane. Yeah.
I love that.
We digress.
Yeah. Any chance to have a themed restaurant be the backdrop to a major business negotiation?
Save it for your improv scenes.
It's
a great reveal. Okay, so take me through the rest of this until you land here.
Yeah, so like I said, I was teaching a ton. I loved teaching improv, and I still like that is probably one of the things that like brings the most joy, because I think it's so fun to watch people build new skills, right? And suddenly they're doing things that they maybe didn't feel confident doing, even earlier in a session, or months ago as you're kind of working with a team or watching groups develop. I was coaching a Herald team that was just a ton of fun. And coming from Detroit, you don't see Herald as like one of those. It's a full term in our curriculum, and it was it is in many of the other schools' curriculums. But it's one of those things. I think I've heard all the conversations about Herald. I still think it's a great. I think it's a great learning and performance tool, because I think it's like being creative within the confines of the structure.
Yeah. For those not in the improv know, the Herald is a long-form improv structure that's like a specific layout of the order of scenes that you do. Within that, you improvise and you find your own way through, but it's kind of like a rigid structure that was developed in the 70s, 80s as like a guideline for how to have the most success. Developed by a man who was deeply in the throes of many drugs and, and needed to be reined in on his 4-hour improv explorations to make his shit palatable for an audience. But it is true. Like, I think it's a misconception that that creativity with rules is hampered or somehow subdued. I think the rules often create the opportunity for more creativity. Yeah. Like if I handed a blank canvas to you all and said, paint something, you'd probably freeze for 10 minutes trying to think of what to paint. But if I said, make your most creative version of an umbrella, like now you could kind of like, you at least have a framework to start with and then you embellish it in your own way. I keep cutting you off as I'm like, Tony, get me to Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I'm trying to get you back to Ann Arbor. No, but we're here. I did that for a few years and had a really great time. And then I started, so a lot of it was driven by my wife's work. She is a pediatrician, had a 3-year fellowship at Stanford University, and that's kind of a big part of what took us there in the first place. And then she started looking at opportunities. It was clear that Michigan really wanted her to come back here to work at Mott Children's Hospital. And so we started looking at options. It was kind of one of those moments of, life's too short kind of stuff. Been doing this for a while. I'm ready to take that leap. I saw myself as somebody risk taking, and then I had to reflect on like 10 years of a career where like I only actively applied for a different job once and kind of like watched a lot of stuff happen around me and wasn't feeling very enthusiastic about what I was doing day to day, if I'm being really honest. And so it was kind of, hey, I think there's a way to make this work. And so as we were planning our move back, I started looking for properties, knowing that there was a hole in the market in Ann Arbor. And I like that model of like craft beer and improv. I think on the brewing side, the beer industry is going through a really challenging mode where actually a lot of breweries are closing. There's a lot of consolidation and kind of oversaturation. So it's kind of, okay.
As if we need one more bummer thing in the world.
One more bummer thing.
It's not enough. Everything else now, like, buy beer. Yeah. And now people can't gather and just have a chat. Yeah. No more trivia nights. Yeah.
It's hard to pass around a bucket and be like, save the breweries,
Agreed. Bad look, Tony. When you showed up at that rally and tried to advocate for yourself.
It's like, and also breweries.
Right. So when you say that model, like, is this a model that you've seen done to good effect elsewhere where people have a brewery that's also a theater?
It was done. So Pointless had a small nano brewery system, and there was what we would call a 1-barrel system, meaning like one batch of beers, roughly 2 kegs. What I was really interested in is like, is there a venue where you can have? I always had this idea of adjacent spaces of there's a black box theater or bigger. I mean, just we're open to a lot of possibilities, but just this idea of you don't have to be coming to take a class or a show to just be a patron of the bar. I think that was a really important aspect of this space.
I think it's like one of the coolest things about this place. Like I mentioned it to you yesterday, like when you walk in, there's the brewery that looks like any brewery that you would want to hang out in. But then you can go down a little hallway and open a door, and there's just like a secret theater back here. Yeah. So you can do either or. Like last night I was teaching a class in here and people were doing improv scenes. And right there was a Taylor Swift trivia night.
Yeah.
And like people drinking
talk about
beers
nailing the date on that. She literally...
You... Buddy.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sent her an email a week ago. It's like, save the breweries.
Thanks, Taylor. They're going to get disengaged next week.
If they can just stay on that cycle, we can do a successful trivia night. So that is a lot of what we do. We try to make space for a lot of things. We've done charitable bingo nights with a lot of nonprofits in town. We tried karaoke. Karaoke people are kind of tricky, I learned.
Hot take. This guy in the front, he's so offended.
Not Derek, no. So we did queeryoke for Ipsy Pride as a fundraiser. Queeryoke is great and fabulous, and I'm all for queeryoke. What I have a harder time with is traditional karaoke, where...
You don't like people named Carrie.
Yeah, I know. I have it out.
Gotcha.
Sorry, Carrie. Yes, what I learned was that with karaoke, you just get these people that come in and see themselves as I am here to perform for everybody. Yeah. And if anybody is doing anything but like watch me when I'm singing, like I had a lady come to me and ask me to like tell all the tables to pay more attention to her singing. I was like, who was Brian? Brian was there for that, who's somewhere. But yeah, so that was a wake up call to to what karaoke is. But yeah, so we try to mix and match a lot of events. We do a ton of live music, which confuses people because sometimes they're like, I'll even have the musician be like, I think you double booked us with this like comedy show. And I'm like, nope, you're playing in the beer garden and it's going to be awesome.
Because there's another space outside with like a little stage out there. So that's the beer garden stage. So you can have simultaneous music trivia night and an improv show.
We're looking for more. Yeah, we need, we're always...
I have a hanging net business and I think we could do something up.
That's that is how we could. I need one of the Google like building engineers to come and like, God dang, look at all that underutilized real estate up there.
What you need is danglers.
And then the fire marshal. How do you get that approved with a fire marshal? That's what I want to know. It's like
a little bit of this sweet improv coin. You just slip them a healthy $5.
Which is the money they don't have for the improv workshop, but they do have to bribe the fire marshal.
Offer them free classes.
Free classes, exactly.
So talk to me about, so how long has Hearsay now been in operation as this multi-hyphenate?
Multi-hyphenate. 1 year next week! Yay!
Congratulations.
We did it. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Talk to me about the biggest lessons you've learned, any thing that you can impart to people who might want to do this on their own or who might be out there trying this and struggling to keep their head above water.
Yeah, I mean, there were some like really. So when you open any kind of alcohol-based business, there is an extra layer of approvals in Michigan that includes the Michigan Liquor Control Commission, and then you need TTB approval federally. Who knows if those jobs still exist? I don't even know
what's TTB.
That is a tax and tobacco.
And
tobacco
tax
tax
on tobacco
and big booties. No, I don't know.
Right.
It's a bureau. Thank you all. I was like, well, I want to phone a friend. I'm like, I feel like I'm on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I do actually at some point.
Let's do it.
So we there's a lot of approvals that happen. I think so. We one of the things we did do strategically was buy the property and the land, and the idea with that is we're not going to be subject to a landlord who's going to tell us, hey, a better opportunity has come along. That was very important to kind of what we were trying to do here, to have that stability. There are challenges, of course. It means you're in a lot of commercial leases. They're charging you for like things like property tax anyway. But there are, it's expensive to do anything.
Did the building exist as is?
It existed as a brewery.
Okay.
You are actually where you're sitting currently. There used to be a GMC hood and a horse head. This was a very like up north of like party room for the previous brewery. And we took that out, so it's now
bummer, dude.
Yeah.
I walked in and I was like, if there's one thing that would make tonight really sizzle,
it's a horse head.
It's a horse head.
Yeah. Like Godfather style.
That's right.
Yeah.
A threatening note. About what kind of fishes I sleep with and a horse head. So you found. What's the process for someone? You just rolled in. I picture you with like a white Texas suit with a bolo tie and a white hat. Like, we'll take the land and the brewery.
Yeah, exactly.
Like how does one accomplish this? Yeah.
So for this project, I basically just pooled a lot of what I had saved up over the time working. So it was like it was a pretty major bet for me personally. And so, I got an SBA loan, which is pretty boring, but that is available. And so we only had to put 10% down to purchase this property.
See, this is the kind of stuff, like, I think this is important because to me, I'm like, well, if you don't own an oil well, how are you buying land anywhere? But part of it is like, land is maybe cheaper in Michigan than California.
They can confirm that, yes.
And a small business loan is something that someone can get. And now, how long do you have to pay that back?
30 years, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like a long.
So you'll be dead by then. This is fine. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's a comedy show.
What the hell?
Yeah. Plus the How much did you get when you sold the horse head and the hood?
The horse, yeah, they were, exactly.
Right.
We easily recouped about $200.
So what are things that that help you keep people coming in? How do you market your improv shows? What are some tricks of the trade there?
Yeah, I think there's definitely still room for us to like get better at a lot of that. But we've done a few things. I think I've learned that a lot of what happens here is cyclical. Like beginning of the year is a really great time to market improv classes because it's a time of people are investing in themselves and thinking about.
Oh, you're riding those New Year's resolution coattails. Yeah.
Don't stop eating ice cream or drinking beer. Like just take an improv class.
Right.
And make some.
Yeah, you can. You gave up drinking for dry January, but you can still come to the building, the brewery. You just go to the different room.
Be adjacent. I mean,
great.
What a test to see if you have the resilience.
Yeah, the metal.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, putting a church next to
a whorehouse. I don't know. Yeah.
You said it. I was thinking it. You said it. Yeah. Because I mean, if you just go to a church and it's kind of like a standalone thing, you haven't proven anything.
A church without whores.
There need to be temptations. You've got to litter it with temptations to show you're committed.
Right. Come on.
But these are the trials of Good job. You've made it inside the church.
Right. Right. You've made it to step 2.
Yeah. One thing I did want to say so we did an SBA loan, which I would definitely recommend if somebody's looking. It is a great option. You do not have to be purchasing property or land to do an SBA loan. You can you can use it for a lease. I also got some help and coaching from the Small Business Development Center. So helped with templatizing business plans and financial projections, and so
they had that.
They gave me the template and then reviewed what I had done to see if it made sense.
That utterly shocks me.
Yeah.
That you know what I mean? Does anybody else? Does that kind of shock you? Yeah. It's like if I even try to do something functional on like an IRS website, like I can't even check a box. It won't even register. But it's like that someone in a government office would be like, and we have a creative template for you, and you can we've done all the legwork, and may we roll out this red carpet and invite you for snacks.
It's so weird that the right wingers running the government are not supporting anything but small business development.
So weird.
Sorry, I went there.
Hey man, you preach and I'll sing in the choir.
But I honestly, there is a ton of support, and I think that is like it's kind of hokey, but I think that is kind of like the vision of America, is that if you want to do something and go for it, you should be able to go for it. And that's the thing that I think is probably pretty centrist point of view, where it's like, I'd love to see more people take risks, and people's life circumstances can be different. I totally get if it's not in the cards to leave a job or kind of like fully take a plunge and do what I did. But there are there's different scales of this thing too. Like you could get a loan and start a small theater. A group I've been in touch with just got a grant, I know, in Sacramento to open a theater. And there are solutions out there. Another thing we did, because we had one of our major hurdles was our paperwork just got super delayed. They were starting to serve alcohol for the first time at Michigan Stadium, which is our big college 112,000 seat football stadium. And the guy literally was like, your file's gonna be delayed a couple months because like we got to do all the paperwork for Michigan Stadium. It's like, what do you do?
They just started serving alcohol.
Yeah, college athletics did not. Traditionally, you had to take a half barrel keg and put it over the edge of the bleachers, like Lauren's dad used to do.
Really? They would sneak a keg into the stadium?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love that.
Which is great. And impressive, because a full half barrel keg is like 160 pounds. So it's not a small feat, honestly. And
I love that the security guards were just like, go ahead.
They were probably like,
right,
let me enjoy some of that.
Do you have any extra cups?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. So your thing was delayed because of underage drinking.
Because of underage drinking. And so I did a secondary, like a crowdsourced loan, which we've been paying back, which I'm really happy to say. So people invested in this business above and beyond that initial loan. And, we pay that back. They get paid quarterly, we pay monthly. That was another cool way to kind of have people that really care about this project succeeding.
Is that like a GoFundMe kind of thing?
It's like that, except it's not like a substitute for health insurance. It's instead of that.
That is not a hot take.
It's just a take. Actually, just a description.
Lukewarm
so
take.
it's kind of like that, except, with things like, I guess it's closer to an Indiegogo type of thing because you usually are getting stuff back. With this, they're making an investment, and it was, it's a security.
So it's like a peer-to-peer loan almost.
Yeah, you're loaning the business funds, then you're getting a pretty nice return on investment, and that actually bridged the gap for us to open the door. So we were hitting June of last year, and I'm like, gosh, I thought it'd be open in like May, June. What do we do? And so we used a platform called Honeycomb that was helpful in kind of getting us over that hurdle. So
has anyone here made a good return on this business so far? Yay!
Brian.
Awesome.
Has anyone here lost everything?
Besides Taylor Swift trivia.
Yeah, Taylor Swift trivia. Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about you talked about that January is a good time to sell improv classes or beginning of the year. What are some other improv specific lessons or things that you love or?
Something we're doing here a lot. So because I play too many roles here, and that's one of my focus areas for year 2 is to kind of just ask for more help and get more help from folks for leadership. But one of the things that's gone really well is I started just, opening up the idea of pitching show concepts. Pretty early in our tenure, we started a Friday night show and a Saturday night kind of core show. And then we've almost one thing at a time been building from there. But we made it really easy for people to get their show, up here. And so that's really, to me, very exciting because I think in a lot of places that's just not.
Stage time is hard to come by.
It's hard to come by.
And it's like that is the currency that all improvisers take instead of cash.
Yeah.
It really is
time.
like the chum in the water. It's like, what? Stage time? People will like me. They clap.
Yeah, totally. As you're dangling from the canvas net, having a performance or your boss is like, I've purchased you some stage time at this local improv theater in lieu of a raise for next year.
Do you have shows every night of the week, or what's
not
your
every
programming?
night? We're getting there, and I want to get there. We're probably doing a little bit more stand up than I would have predicted initially. But we do some late night stand up shows, which has been really actually fun and brings in there is some crossover. We do have some folks that are stand ups that have started taking improv classes to work on things like crowd work. But we kind of focus on inclusion with our stand-up, I would say. So we definitely accentuate underrepresented and marginalized voices in a lot of that programming. But we also have some pretty wide open concepts as well.
And do most of your performers come from Ann Arbor, or are you pulling teams and performers from Detroit and surrounding areas?
Definitely a lot of Detroit, and Toledo also has a Glass City Improv. There's some folks that make the drive from Toledo, so I really appreciate them. It's actually almost the same driving time to come from Toledo or Detroit. But there are two.
You told me that on the way from the airport, and it blew my mind. I grew up in a Detroit suburb. Shout out to Rochester. Anyone? Oh, all right. And you were mentioning that Toledo is so close. I was like, it is? It broke my brain. You know how when you're a kid and you don't do the driving, you just look out the window and you have no concept, but Ohio to me was another state. So it was a big deal to cross the state line. We went to Cedar Point every summer, but I just didn't, woo, the Raptor. But I just I did not know that. And then I looked at a map last night and I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of right there. I gotta revisit geography, man.
Totally, absolutely.
Yeah. Everything as an adult, you start revisiting everything and you're like, oh, it's different now. Everything, I would have paid attention in history. Now it's interesting. So how did you cast a net to grab this talent? So you land in Ann Arbor from Fremont, California. You're kind of a stranger here. You're a fish out of water.
I was here for a while before.
Here.
Yeah, I was here
because you trained at Pointless.
Yeah, okay. So I was here from 2012 to 2020.
Okay.
And I know a lot of the people here I knew from before I had moved.
You already had your community in stone here.
Exactly.
Yeah, gotcha.
And there were some other really great programs that were kind of, I think, keeping keeping improv alive. There was a theater, What About, Michelle is here, who was one of the main people leading that. David with the civic improv. So yeah, there were some people that really did awesome work to kind of keep improv going and keep
like during COVID, you mean?
Yeah, and that was a whole thing, and there, yeah.
They were encouraging improv to wash its hands and wear masks.
Yeah.
And
some people even vaccinate
survived.
against it.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so there was that programming. I think what was maybe a challenge was finding like a permanent physical space that was, could have that level of dedication where, like, in theory, improv could be happening every night, right? So I think that was. I think for both of those programs, maybe the challenge. On the civic theater side, if I'm not overspeaking, there's also a lot of dramatic productions going on, which also get a lot of attention. And then I think for What About, it was just the challenges of trying to find a physical home and a space were kind of the core things there. So I was watching a lot of that happen, and I think more improv is great. More improv is more improv. So I'd be happy if more stuff, popped up. But I did know that there was a captive audience of people with training, with experience, kind of ready to audition and jump into teams.
A bunch of frogs waiting for a pond to swim in.
Waiting for a pond, yeah exactly.
What is the philosophy that you teach here, or is there one, or is it multiple?
Yeah, and I think, so my personal philosophy is very much build a lot of tools and add them to your toolkit. And I love the idea that, like, opposing philosophies like take care of yourself versus take care of your scene partner. I think they're both true, even though they're opposites. One of my favorite. One of the trainings that was very positive from my time at Google is called polarities training, which I think would be very helpful for improvisers. It is the idea that you could take two opposites, like centralization, decentralization, right? Or I think an improv one that comes up a lot of times is like, are we more focused on building community or the highest possible quality show, right? And I think the idea is they're not mutually exclusive, but you maybe have to make some decisions about where you want to be. And the whole idea is that for anything where there's two opposites, they have an upside and a downside. Right? So centralization, right? The upside is consistency. You're going to produce the same thing every time. Decentralization, the upside is more innovation, more room for different teams to kind of try things, right? But they each have those kind of the opposite downsides. So the idea is, can you minimize the downsides and maximize the upsides, right? And I think I go through ebbs and flows where at times for me being really focused on just what am I observing from the person in the scene is really helpful. And then there's times where I'm like, I feel like I'm playing the same characters a lot. Can I focus on that?
As you enter the scene, talking about the two polarities being either your focus is 100% on your scene partner, listening to everything they say and treating it like this precious gift and making them look really good and reacting, or is your focus on yourself going like, what is my object work? What am I going to do? What's my emotional or character choice? What's my big swing that I'm going to take in this scene to move it somewhere? You're right. Like even if we oscillate between those two differing perspectives, even if we on some nights or even months long stretches are doing only one, if we're doing both over the course of our career, eventually they'll kind of zipper together and spread out. It will be a good balance overall, I think. The old coin flip theorem, you get 5 heads in a row, but eventually you'll get 5 tails and it'll balance it out.
Exactly, yeah.
Spent a lot of time in Vegas, folks. If anyone needs any pointers on the coin flip table.
Yeah, exactly.
I like calling it polarities is so corporate, but also helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you been working on your polarities during improv class?
Right.
So, yeah, it's very.
Are you going to the polarities conference?
There probably is one.
You going to PolCon?
Yeah. It's probably. PolCon. It'd be like the weirdest people with the best idea, and you're like, why did you guys stumble upon this wisdom and call it that?
Yeah.
I think polarities are really helpful. I love when people, because I've noticed some of your guests will talk about a scene being easier or harder, and I love that language versus like good or bad.
Right.
I don't like labeling scenes as good or bad, but you can see when a scene feels more difficult, and it's like, why did that feel difficult, right? And it's like, oh, well, we didn't quite know who we were to each other, or there was a pretty strong offer that maybe didn't get kind of picked up of something that could have happened in the scene. So I'm a huge fan of, I think just being flexible and trying to observe what's happening in the scene and then kind of going from there.
Yeah, it's interesting to like look at you talking about this in such depth and then trace it back to your origin story, which is like, I'm getting married, I'm nervous, I want to take my mind off of it. Isn't it wild how it blasted you through this door and now you're like all the way out in outer space, like deep diving on this?
I love I think the comedy theory stuff is really interesting. I love I had a group today that came in for a private workshop, and I always like to have every group finish with an exercise that just plays with iron. Like, I think irony is a lot of what is funny.
Yeah.
And so somebody gives you bad news, take it really well. Somebody gives you good news, take it really poorly. It's the worst thing you've ever been told. You got a promotion. Oh no, right?
Right.
Or I hand you, hey, here's a pencil, and it's the most important thing that's ever happened to you. So I like to set people up for success in those workshops. I always tell them, like, we're going to do one thing where everybody can go home and say they did an improv scene, but it's pretty outside of a blackout one-line scene. It's like the shortest improv scene possible. It's 3 lines, and you're all going to succeed if you just do,
So set it up for me. Teach me the exercises if I'm the person.
So the exercise is, okay, so if we did good news, right? I'm going to give you a piece of good news, and you're going to take it really poorly.
Okay.
So, Suzi, I just opened the mail. You got accepted at Harvard.
Oh, no. Not again. I'm so tired of being the smart one in my family. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Yeah, it just instantly works, right? And I know that's been another topic is like, is there some degree of, are we doing the math and thinking a little bit? Yeah, but I think you can, if you drill that enough, you can, I think, have some of those things in your back pocket. It's just, you start to automatically realize, a lot of what's funny in comedy, it's people are responding in an unusual way, right? We were talking about that concept in one of the workshops this week. So that would be the good, that's the good bad version. Do you want to do the bad good?
I'll give you the bad, and you take
one.
it good. Yeah, I'll give you bad news.
You want to give me bad news?
Yeah. Oh my God, Tony. They're not allowing you to continue hearsay. They're shuttering you.
Oh my God. I literally have miles that are expiring for Southwest Airlines.
Can you believe this guy? Like, what?
Yeah.
Great.
So, yes, thank you, everyone. That was the improv show you've all paid for.
That was it. But,
So I think it just works, right? And I think you can layer in those things with groups because people want to feel a little bit of that success right away.
And you gave the example of giving a pencil, and there's bad news, good news.
Mundane.
There's mundane thing that becomes important, or big thing that becomes unimportant.
Big thing that's small. I should add that because that is also the exact
polarities, dude.
Yeah, it's polarities.
Yeah. It's like your whole thing.
I'm going to bring that up at PolCon 2025, 2026.
Yeah.
Because it straddles New Year's this year.
I'm so stoked for PolCon.
PolCon?
Yeah.
My guy, am I going to see you at PolCon this year?
Yeah. I just picture a bunch of groups arriving. It's like strippers. It's just a big misunderstanding.
Oh my God,
different PolCon.
I love that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Santa. What? No.
Yeah.
I think we're nearing a Q&A portion. Is there any stone that we've left unturned that you want to hit?
Yeah, I think, one other thing I would just say about philosophy of improv, we've had some folks taking classes here and kind of leaning into dramatic improv. And I think that Detroit is a region, which I think I consider us definitely part of that versus the other way around. I think the emotional resonance of scenes is a big thing. And I feel like there's people that, you kind of focus on are people, and I'll try to make this not so improv heady because we've got an audience that's mixed, but I think some people teach more of you're leaning into finding the unusual thing in a scene and kind of almost like you're watching a sketch. And then in Detroit, I think leans very relationship emotion. But I think if you can pair those things together, that's that's where the real magic is if you can do both. So I watched a really long like an improv fest that just went forever at one point. And, it was
Sounds like a blast.
And no, it wasn't.
It went forever.
And I was trying to think. So what I was like, God, a lot of this is just, forgive me, but a lot of it, you're like, this is just pretty boring.
Yeah.
And when you're watching a lot of boring improv, after a while, you're like, why is this so boring? Why am I just not into this? And I think the biggest thing I would say that I've I'm wanting to be even more part of our curriculum here is I love the idea of like taking the absurd thing really seriously, right?
Yeah.
So a group that I've worked with before had a scene at a festival I did recently where there were gnomes in the yard murdering people, right? And what I loved about that scene is that's a big problem. If that's your world, like that's not a, like it's not like, isn't it hilarious there's gnomes in the front yard killing people? It's like, no, we need to rally the townsfolk.
Yeah.
There are gnomes murdering people.
Right. We cut to the cops in the station.
Yeah.
Like we've got to do something. They've got red strings, like going to Home Depot.
Yeah.
Like where the gnomes are sold. Yeah. Treating things seriously.
Yeah.
And really investing in your scene and being emotionally present is the art form. I think people can sometimes, when they're newer improvisers, they go see an improv show and it's really funny, and their takeaway is, improv is about being funny. That's the takeaway for the audience, is that it's funny. But in order to deliver that, you can't be being funny or it's not funny. If you're a clown in space, that's not funny. There's nothing relatable. But if it's like, if it's literally like a clown that works for NASA and we're all at the meeting and the clown is, very seriously pitching like, well, I think we need to figure out how to depressurize my seltzer bottles so that when I get it,
totally.
it's like, how do we ground it and make it? It's a performative art form. It's not just a joke on a popsicle stick.
Yeah.
It's like literally people as human beings relating to each other. I mean, like Nichols and May are one of my favorite comedy duos of all time. Some of the best comedy ever done. So much of what they did was improvised, and it holds up. If you go on YouTube and re-listen to, or if you're a dork like me and have them on vinyl and make your friends at dinner parties sit around and like glassy-eyed look at the table while you play a comedy record until people are like, well, we gotta go. But like those sketches hold up because they take them so seriously, and it's truly performed as if they're doing an actual play or as if it's a real slice of life.
It's like, I think, because that came up in the last episode, and it was like the clowns in space thing. I think like if you do find yourself in a scene where, okay, now we're clowns in space, like, are you clowns that just got launched into space? Because that's a very problematic, that's a big problem. So I think if you can lean into this, taking it really seriously, that still brings you back to like a place of being fairly grounded. So yeah, I think it's that. Like I responded really well to scenes as I was watching that festival. I was like, there's the things I'm really responding to. It's when people take it really seriously. And that was when I first started taking classes, and I've now had people in class that have this. It's like you see certain people are like, I think improv is going to be me doing like a mini stand-up set, and I've got to get my two things in. And I'm not above doing. I do a lot of puns. People know that I probably do a ton. So I'm not saying I always even deliver on the things I'm saying, but it's at least what I'm aspiring to, what I want to do.
Well, and there's a lot of mileage in the parts of the scenes that aren't getting laughs, where you're just playing the reality. And I think there's sometimes a misconception that like you have to be big or like performing at all times in a scene. No, there's so much just in the straight face and in the deadpan, the moments where we're setting up the reality. Doctor, thank you so much for seeing me on such short notice. The like actually being real.
Voice of reason character was a big, I think, like thing that is getting unlocked for this community, I would say, because I would say that there's a lot of people that default to thinking voice of reason. If you kind of get trained in the more like commitment and kind of more relationships and emotion, voice of reason sounds like you're saying no, and it's a classic conversation there, but that it works so well, and it helped. It's not the only way to play, but it's definitely a valuable tool to have in your tool. If you're thinking like all ideas can potentially be utilized, that's when I'm starting to see more of our players in our community leverage, as we have folks like yourself come through, or just kind of new ideas. I think it's then adding a ton when you pair that with the more acting side, the emotional commitment side. So I love when I see stuff like that happening.
Great. Do you want to turn that into a pun really quick to close it out?
I don't think I've got one.
All right. Wow. Boy. I guess we'll just slowly fade. Way to land the plane, Tony. Well, now that we've got your thoughts brewing.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to open it up to a Q&A. If you have a question about Tony's business or about improv or about anything that we've talked about tonight, we'll have you line up along the side there, and Tony will pass you a mic and you'll use it to ask your question. And if not, we can just keep chatting. But we want to throw it to, do you have a, yeah.
Of course it.
Yeah, there we go. You'll be our first. And hold it a little bit away from your, because we checked the levels for this.
Is this good?
Yeah, what, check again?
Is this good?
Yeah, that's great, man.
Awesome. So
I
I just spent some time studying the annoyance style, which is more taking care of yourself, and I'm about to jump back into classes at more of a relationship based form. I'm wondering if you have any more advice, kind of dive a little bit deeper into that. How do you approach integrating those two together?
I find it helpful to look at the mission, like the mission as a whole for everyone on stage is to do what the scene needs or what the show needs. And at times, the tool that you'll use is taking care of yourself and making a strong character choice and whatever. But not if it's at the expense of what's already happening, you know? So I use this example sometimes, and I'm going to put a disclaimer at the top of it because I don't want it to sound like I'm talking shit about a particular theater or particular performers. But the Groundlings is a school that's very based on, like, you create a big character. You know, that's where Pee Wee Herman came out of. It's like you create this big, strong character, and the other person creates a big, strong character, and then you put them in a scene together, and it's like these two strong characters doing a scene together. And it often is like at odds with each other because it's like, well, I don't know what this like bombastic, braggy football player has to do with this woman who wants to climb Mount Everest. It's like, it just doesn't. And when I've played improv shows with people who only have Groundlings training, it's so hard to get on the same page with what we're actually doing in the scene because they're just trying to like do their shtick or be their character. It's fine to be a big character if you're also serving the scene. So if a scene is set up where it's like, we are so happy to meet your girlfriend and blah, 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 great, we would love for you to come in and be the girlfriend, but not be another big choice character that's fighting against what we've kind of already set up. Does that make sense? Or if, you know, you're standing with me and we are the parents and the girlfriend comes in and she's like, you know, the unusual one in the scene, then the scene kind of needs you to be aligned with me as like the grounded people. And that's more helpful than you also have this kind of crazy idea. There can be like an embarrassment of riches of like too many comedic ideas. And if they fight against each other instead of working in concert, then it's like listening to jazz and there's a sax solo at the same time that there's a bass solo at the same time that there's a piano. It's too many solos. Like everyone kind of has to have their moment. So I think as you progress, you'll start tuning into like the group mind of the show as a whole and what the audience is expecting from the scene or not expecting, what surprise you can bring. And some of it's about discipline. Can I sit on this idea and then enter as the big surprise at the end? Or, you know, am I needed right now to be a voice of reason, or am I needed to be the big character? And you'll use those skills when they're needed. It's like when you're up to bat, hit the home run. But when you're in the outfield, be ready to catch. You're not swinging a bat when you're in the outfield. You're doing like what's needed. Does that kind of help answer your question? Yeah, cool. Yeah. But absolutely, like everybody should be taking annoyance and be taking Groundlings, all these things that like put different tools in your belt. It's so good that you did that. It's really great skills to have. Yeah. Yeah, let's go to, Jan. Oh my God.
You remembered.
I remember. If a woman holds a stein up like that when she first meets me, I'm never going to forget her. Jan, what's your question?
So I don't really have one. I want to make...
I wanted to sing a song.
Well, I could do that,
Please.
but you wouldn't like it. No, a testimonial. a testimonial to how many balls are in the air with this business. Tony talked a little bit about the actual business orientation that he had to go through to make this business happen. And people in Ann Arbor looked at it and said, a theater and a brewery. Okay, what's happening here? This is different. This isn't something we're he had to keep those balls in the air, and he's still keeping those balls in the air while he's teaching improv classes at a separate location. I have to tell you how humble he is when he talks about this business, about how much he has overcome in adversity in order to get this business open. One of the things he didn't mention that I want to emphasize for any of you who are thinking about small business, and that's the relationships that he has built. Larry and I just came from a Creative Washtenaw meeting, which Tony had to miss because of something very special that was going on tonight. But he has aligned himself with the creative audience in our area. He's aligned himself with the business community through ActionNet, West Washtenaw Business Association. He has, whose president sits here tonight, who is a student of the improv and has taken on a speaking career as a result of what he's learned in the improv. He's gone on to things beyond what he had in mind for his future as a result of what he's learned from Tony. Tony genuinely invests in other people, and he genuinely has brought to Ann Arbor an opportunity for people to think differently. And I just think it's important that we continue to acknowledge that he has multiple fronts on which we can support him. So I'll be here for the Oklahoma game. Probably not for the improv, but those of you...
Tell it like it is, Jan.
Because I did one of those. But Tony has offered for a group that I work with that is a nonprofit of girls that are going off to meet women who have $500 million companies and be mentored by them, to train them to speak to those women and be able to ask questions with those women and give them the confidence to do that, to see who they can be in their future. This man doesn't just do a brewery and an improv theater. He does much, much more.
Wow. How nice. You open by saying he has so many balls in the air. Let's raise a glass tonight to Tony's balls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually have a rebuttal.
Oh, please.
That was so nice. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah. What a nice testimonial. And now mic drop, and she's out the door. It's like gets out her motorcycle and drives off. Yeah.
Obviously, you have had many balls in the air, and from what limited time I've spent here, I've gotten to see more being thrown up. I'm so curious, what's coming next? What balls are going to be added to the juggling cycle?
Great question. Yeah.
All right. So, we have I've said this before, and I do really believe in it. Like, in 10 years, want Ann Arbor to be seen as a major improv hub, in the country. And there's some things that we have as advantages. There's some things that are, we're not LA, Chicago, New York, Amsterdam. We're not those places. But we've got some some very talented performers, many of whom are in the room tonight. We have this town has a really awesome academic and intellectual and to some degree other types of diversity. I think there could always be more of that. But yeah, we've got some awesome folks that I think can help do this. But it's I think building Ann Arbor where it's really on the map for improv. Something I haven't announced yet is that we have a festival that is in the works for next summer where we are talking to folks at the level of like a Suzi Barrett of, hey, what can we do here to like kind of to make that a big success and bring awesome talent. But a lot of the things that we're doing are it's bringing in the best minds and the best performers in improv and bettering this community. Like that is a very big, I guess that's a ball I want to keep in. I want to keep my ball in the air. I like to maintain my balls in the air if I can do that.
I want to keep my one big ball.
My one big ball. It's not a ball I want to put in the air over here. But yeah, so I think those are big things. I think if things go well, expansion could always be an opportunity both on the brewery side and the improv side. But yeah, I very much appreciate JJ's going to college this year and such an awesome, both performer and patron of improv and tech aficionado. So we love JJ too. Yes. Yeah. JJ.
They were in boboth nights of my workshop and they were awesome. So
Yes.
great. Keep it up.
Yeah.
Also, any plans for a Hefeweizen?
Any plans for a Hefeweizen? Yeah, that would be so funny from an 18, right? Nate? Yep, from an 18-year-old.
Right,
why can I get a freaking Hefeweizen around here?
Thanks for the question, JJ.
Thank you, JJ. Yeah. And I'm always happy to talk to other people if you have ideas for balls that should be in the air.
My question is kind of for both of you. First, Suzi, I struggle with improv podcasts, not a big fan, but I listened. I did.
Keep talking.
But my first episode I ever listened to of yours was the Jamie Moyer interview, which was incredible. We love Jamie. We're obsessed. But I was like, oh, okay, I need to give this a shot. Do you have an other improv podcast that you really like that you listen to? And then part two is, Tony, do you have a favorite episode of Yes Also? So part one, part two.
Do you mean podcasts about improv specifically? I don't listen to any other ones because I don't want to like muddy my own style or voice at all. And also I spend like 30 hours a week on this. I think I'm like oversaturated with like and that's just the podcast. That's not performing. I think like it would be too much. But there are a lot of like improv performance podcasts that I love. My favorite right now is Hello from the Magic Tavern. If you haven't listened to that, it's so good. I'm like binging it, and it's I did classes at IO with Arnie, the host, and he's so funny. Great example of playing a joyful, likable straight man in a scene and like not squashing the idea, but being the voice of reason and just being curious and being like, I'm sorry, wait, did you say you eat buffalo horns? Okay, hold on. Just clarifying and calling things out. I know that didn't really answer your question, but maybe that's something. And then the other question was
calling out, favorite episodes. I mean, there's some of the people that I've like Brian O'Connell, somebody I really love, and that was one of the early ones. Mm-hmm. He's come here a couple times, and I know his mentor Miles Stroth was on recently, and that idea of position play, I didn't talk about that at all, but that was also an extremely informative concept. I think that plus the idea of like the straight character voice of reason were two of the more impactful things I've picked up on. And then, Craig Kukowski, I don't know if I mentioned Craig, but
Kukowski's a great episode. I think Heather Campbell's episode is not to be missed, and Jason Mantzoukas is not to be missed. I think.
He talked about the adversarial relationship with the audience. I think like it's wild sometimes where you're like, God, there's these people that it's like a Paul Scheer, Jason, people that I just watched as a fan, and you're like, okay, I'm not in that space in any way, but like we are in like kind of an adjacent space. You start to realize, this isn't that big of a world in the grand scheme of things. There's people, like yourself, have been on TV and done a lot of different really interesting projects. And over time, you start to realize like it's all people. It's all people figuring out an art form. And I think it was maybe was it Chris Gethard who talked about like the record keeping, kind of the curation of ideas. I think when he was on, he was talking about as a listener, it's so cool. Like that people don't talk about play style.
Yeah,
and
that
so just
this is like a
space.
building of an oral history. And that it's a record of all the, I
love that stuff of like people that were so early to UCB in New York. I think that's like extremely fascinating to think about. So that'd probably be another highlight.
And I'd probably say all of them.
All of them. The part two of everyone is really
part two of all. Yeah, everything that's behind a paywall is definitely my favorite. Hard to pick.
You wouldn't illegally stream part two. It's like
I do think like the part two of Ben Schwartz's episode is incredible, and we do an improvised scene together, and during the scene he like breaks out of character to be like, see what I did there and see how I'm helping here. He like instructs it while it's happening, and it was really incredible. But thank you for the question, and I hope that's helpful. Yeah. And then we have our last question of the night. You better better be a good one.
Better be a good one. Yeah. Sorry if it's a little inside baseball, but I've been coaching for about 10 years now. And
baseball?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, unfortunately, no, don't have the body for that. But coaching improv for 10 years, and I'm coaching the next house troupe here. And in that time, I haven't seen a lot of people wanting to become coaches. And I'm curious if you have advice, Suzi, from your scene of how you cultivate that in an improv community.
It's up to you sometimes to build a bridge. So I started coaching because someone who was kind of like a senior to my freshman was like, I can't coach this team anymore, but I think you get it, and I think you're good enough to do this. Will you like sub some practices for them? And I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in over my head. But once I started doing it, I easily did it. It's like anyone who's anywhere further down any road has advice to give people who are on the road. And it's one of those things that you get better at as you do it. But I think there are a lot of people out there who don't know that they can do it until they start. And I think just the power of you believing in them and seeing the potential in them will launch them into that stratosphere. The belief and the filling of their own confidence and like, no, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a bit of like ego boost, but it's also like, oh yes, okay, the awareness that they are ready. So I would say you can cultivate that just by doing that. I think you could also like, there's room for having like a forum where like, you know, people who are all kind of the senior class, I'm putting that in quotes, people who have been doing it a while, meet up as like a coaching practice. Meet up on a Saturday for 2 hours, and everybody takes turns being the coach of scenes and like giving advice, and then you can like give feedback on the coaching. Like, why not have a coaching forum? Do you have anything to add to that or correct?
Just that we, no, not correct. We are interested in standing up more workshops for coaches and directors. I think. So Gary is in the back who leads our education program. I know for folks, you know, if you've been doing this thing for a while, there can be opportunities to shadow teachers, and I think getting in that way is good. What's worked for me, and I think, you know, I do call this out because I think there is just to keep it real, there is kind of a gender thing, I think, sometimes where I think men tend to be more willing to say, I'll just do this without a lot of qualifications or experience. And I would encourage any women or non-binary folks to consider just maybe test. And I don't, you know, everybody's experience is different, but I think probably men could stand to do that less, and I think that other folks could stand to do that a little bit more and kind of meet somewhere in the middle. But I don't know. I just said yes to things before I was like, this is saying yes to something kind of crazy. You know, I started coaching a team before I was maybe feeling like I was the most qualified person in the world, but I was like, I care, and I'll do the work, and we'll figure it out, and I'm not going to be a jerk to people. And I think as long as the biggest harm you can do is, I think, to be a jerk and, you know, give like brutal no. I mean, there's people that maybe have benefited from that in the past, but I think like, if you can be a decent human being, I don't think you can mess it up too bad. You know, like what's the stakes?
The gradation goes from neutrally unhelpful to really helpful, but there's like a tiny sliver that's actually harmful, and that's so to the point that you started with right before you almost yammered on about baseball. Your initial statement was there aren't a lot of people who are showing interest in wanting to be coaches. Yeah. And I will say to people out there, nothing accelerated my improv abilities or understanding faster and harder than coaching. Coaching has made me infinitely better at improv because it forces you to watch a million scenes and analyze in the moment why they are working or not working. And it's easier to watch someone else's scene while you're like relaxing on a chair and not like nervous on stage, and be able to coolly and calmly see what's going on and what's working. If you can do that, you will immediately become a better improviser. And also, it's a fun creative pursuit to make up exercises and come up with the ways that you can help coach people into being better. So yeah, it's a rewarding pursuit in and of itself that will also selfishly help your performance. Cool. We've got to close it out and go to a break.
Yeah.
But thank you, Tony, and thank Tony's balls, and let's give him a big hand. If you like this podcast and you want double the content, head over to yesalso.supercast.com and subscribe. You can also help us out for free by subscribing to us on YouTube and talking us up to your improv communities. If you have a question that you'd like us to answer in one of our Q&A episodes, or a topic that you think would make a great bonus episode, put it in a 5-star review. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A very special thanks to our producer, Ryan Rosenberg, audio and video editor, Brian Kessler, and Britt Faye, who does our marketing. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Suzi. That's not how podcasts work. They won't even see us. They will listen to us, so it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.